have you heard that Google were planning to fire unvaccinated employees? I thought this would appeal to you.
Google are planning to fire unvaccinated employees, right? So
Thank you for saying my headline back even slower.
why would Google benefit from doing that? Why are they making a stance? Why are
Because
they
they're
making a
trying to be
military?
this whole social justice kind of thing where they're really pushing people to get the vaccine because they believe that everyone should have it. Now, I feel the same way, but I
Still got to
wouldn't
be
fire people
choice.
over it.
You can't.
It's
Yeah,
mad.
that's
That's a bit dic- dictator dictatorship
dictatorial.
dictatorial. Is that the word? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Autocratic. Yeah,
Bit
it's
much.
yeah, for such a big. I mean, they're going to get a lot of kickback in that. I think
They won't.
again, no,
I'll tell you why they won't, because they've put it in a
no,
really smart way. The way
which
they've done
is
it is they've said, right, you've got until the 18th of January to prove that you have been vaccinated via paperwork.
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
if you haven't done it after that, actually, no, they've got until the 3rd of December to prove that they've been vaccinated.
that's
Those that
gone.
have not done so by the 18th of January are put on paid administrative leave for 30 days, then
Yep.
unpaid leave for 6 months. Then after that, unpaid personal leave means they will lose their job.
Yeah, so
So
they're longing
essentially,
it
they're
out,
phasing
but
you out. They're phasing you
they're
out.
phasing you out, but it's still, I'm asking you to leave. And the only way that works is if everybody, as in all the businesses and the high levels, do the same thing.
Yeah, but no one's
Otherwise,
going to do that because
I
it's
don't know,
been
man.
fucked, man.
Google did it. Well, no, it's agreed. But if that's what governments want, if they're saying to the NHS now, you have until April. If you're not vaccinated, then bye bye. Just doesn't make sense, man. Like if you've already got gaps, especially in the NHS, you've got massive gaps. Then you can threaten staff. I think what we're better served doing, specifically within frontline workers, let's say as an example, is that or those who aren't vaccinated, have a really good chat with them and trying to understand why
This is
you
what
haven't
I'm
had the
saying.
vaccine.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, which is you need to have a chat with them because
Mm,
if you take this hardline stance, you're making the gap bigger between you and vaccinated people, which
yep,
means the unvaccinated ones are going to get more shunned, more
yep,
angry, more
yep,
upset, and then that bridge gets bigger and bigger, and you can't create the bridge over that gap. You can't fix it. It gets
no,
so wide you can't build it, and you're
yep,
making things more extreme and polarized. So I'm like, oh shit, now what do? You're
yeah, and
just
that's
adding fuel
right
to
territory,
your
man. That is.
yeah, you're adding fuel to the fuckery. It's not a smart idea. I wouldn't personally recommend it. I think it's fucked, but journalistic balance the clock, right? I think it's necessary to apply something quite hardline at times. And maybe this is their way of saying, don't fuck with us. We're the ones who want to do this. And maybe they'll attract people who are vaccinated into their company and who abide by all those rules. And maybe there'll be even more, 100% vaccinated status or whatever the fuck it is. If that
Mm.
makes them happy, if
So
that's how they get their kicks, cool. But Silicon
it's
Valley is a very, very left wing place.
thinking,
It's a very, very liberal place where they
but
really enjoy
it's
stuff like
never
that.
happened in history, man. Look at all the vaccines we have in the world. It's never been, and it's still the case. Like if you have a baby, you do not have to get your baby vaccinated.
Which is fucked. I think that's fucked. But everyone's got their own opinion, I guess.
Choice, isn't
But
it? So it's all about choice. But this is the first time in the recent times, at least in history, where it's been mandated you must get vaccinated, or
mm,
there's a consequence. And if it's a big one, isn't it? Financial income.
well, that's financial. There's others in Germany where they've pushed people to one side and they've said, well, you can't go shopping or visit hospitality venues if you've not been
Yeah,
vaccinated. So
yeah.
they've taken a more not softer approach. It's actually more extreme,
Your
but it's
liberties, isn't
infringing
it?
on
Yeah,
certain activities, not all the activities.
yeah.
Maybe that's
It's
how it starts.
negative reinforcement. Exactly, is how it starts, isn't it? And I guess, look, if you're somebody who's vaccinated, then obviously this doesn't affect you, but you should still be able to appreciate, choice. There has to be an element of choice, and there has to be greater understanding. It doesn't help with all this shit like it's circulated and misinterpreted. And even today, I don't know if you watched the briefing. I was watching it before the
Yeah, which is
podcast.
bollocks, really. The briefing was bollocks. I thought he was going to say lockdown, but he didn't. I was like, so why are you doing this?
Yeah, I wasn't so much talking about Boris, but Prof. Whitty's slides when he was saying that, look, people are looking at certain elements of data. So, for example, the Omicron variant in South Africa, it's not as bad. We've got less hospitalization. He's like, well, if you're looking at the data, actually, no, it's just that at the point we're at now, we haven't actually got the data on, let's say, mortality, so number of deaths or accurate number on hospitalizations. We haven't got that. We've got infection rate going up. We can see we haven't got these other things, but just because we haven't got them is not the same as this isn't as bad. And then he made some really, really good points actually that I think people need to take on board. And I like where he comes from, he's not a politician. There was one question that was asked by the ITV news journalist, like really like bang, put Boris on the. Yeah, you see the question? It was something like,
yeah, I saw the question.
Well, if you vaccinate now, we're not going to see the effects for 4 weeks. So why aren't you telling people not to go to the pubs? Like he's basically, and good question, because the guidance at the moment is very like do what you think is sensible. Is basically the guidance rather than rule of 6, 2 families. There's nothing. It's all like stay at home,
because
go to work.
It gives people the option to do what they want. It stops the government from getting any flack from doing
for being a military state,
draconian, right? Yep. So it's like, okay, let's just let you guys do what you want, and yeah, it makes sense. But then you've been told to not go to work, but you're told to go to Christmas parties. So essentially, you can have a party at work, but you can't go to work. And so I found that quite funny.
I've thought about this. Why is he saying that? Again, it is that point
because
about
he doesn't want the hospitality venues to lose out, but they already are losing out. So
that's from their side, but I think from the as a person side, the consumer side, it's like, okay, if your work can be done from home, that's fine. So why not do it from home? Like that makes sense to me. But if I can then still have a bit of a social life, that's okay with me. I understand where he's coming from in that particular point. Rather than doing it, say, the other way, saying you have to go to work. Well, it's like, well, if you can do the work from home, that's fine, but you can't really socialize at home with all the friends.
But we've covered this extensively, haven't we? With like opposing views. So remember Goldman Sachs saying you got to go to work. We need you back at work in the office.
Yeah.
And if the government and the government's incentivized people to go back to work, they said stay at home, then say go to work because the economy needs to boost in money. Hospitality venues need that to carry on. You got to do it to keep the economy going. Like, yeah, I can see it, but now it's just like, hang on. If your job was able to be done from home anyway, move with the times and move towards it, because you have to firmly embrace it. You can't keep jumping back and forth. You either fully embrace it or you don't embrace it at all, and you let people do whatever the fuck they want now, and you say carry on going to work and do what you want. The issue arises is when you flip between the two. And I know humans are people of habit, creatures of habit. Yep. When you start messing with that, people start getting angry and upset. Because they're like, 1 minute it's this, 1 minute it's that. Just give me some fucking routine and let me choose what I want to do. And it's not doing that. And people are on edge. Like today, prior to the briefing, everyone on Twitter is like, lockdown coming. Because they think it's the next thing that's going to happen because it's happened 3 times before.
True. And I think it does give a sense, there is clarity in it. It's like, this is it now. Like, this is all it is kind of thing. Whereas, look, the one thing I did come away thinking, I do actually like the way Prof Witty had said it like 3 or 4 times, but he was like, do I need to be here? Do I want to be here? That's a question people need to ask when they're socializing now. Is it a need or a want? So the Christmas example, like, okay, I want to be with my immediate family, celebrating together on the day. That's more of a need, right? Whereas the want is all the other build-up things. Do it if you want, but then there's a risk of X, Y, Z. There's obviously personal risk to yourself, and there's risk to other people. In terms of spreading, they're asking for people to increase their level of personal responsibility, right? So they're trying not to infringe on liberty. Bold move. The full lockdown may still come. I'm interested to see what the post-Christmas approach is. And he mentioned, from a personal point of view, he mentioned like, look, this new variant, even if you vaccinate, you're still going to get the infection. That's going to affect NHS staff getting infected, isolating, being unwell, big gaps. Even Sanj, before we came on the podcast, I was asking her, and she was saying there are reports of, I think, local hospitals to you where people are scared to go into hospital, which happened during the first wave when we had.
Yeah, exactly. It was like that the first wave. That's nothing new.
No, but look, from a person working in hospital, there was like an optimal point where we had genuine emergencies coming to hospital. We had the people, and then we didn't have the people that don't need to be in hospital coming because they were scared. And then we had obviously the COVID stuff. And it was actually like, oh, if we had this level that we had to service, our NHS is bloody brilliant. Like we had the ratio of clinicians to patients at that point was awesome, man. Like we were just delivering proper care in a kind of, I think I can't remember what the stat is now for what should be like the safe ratio between number of patients and doctors. I think it should be 1 to 5. It's never 1 to 5. But in that period, we genuinely had that number.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm not talking at the ITU level. They had much different pressures. I'm talking about front door. I see the stuff as soon as it comes in. Um, so yeah, that's maybe one good thing. People actually think about: do I need to go to hospital? Because if I
yeah,
do go, there is
maybe.
a risk of getting COVID. There's a
Yeah,
good
but
deterrent.
there was always that risk anyway. Even if you went now, obviously it's heightened with more and more cases in there. But
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. But as you know, is
it's
the hype died down from no one's really caring about COVID, whatever the vaccines here. Now I think generally that fear is coming back. That briefing today, again, it's not Boris who I take. I don't look at him as the marker for fear. When Prof starts talking about it, I'm like, okay, this this is
he knows
genuine
what
now.
he's on
Like
about.
he's
Let's
always on
fuck with it.
about, and he doesn't he's got no kind of political agenda.
He doesn't have a
Uh,
political agenda. Yeah, that's true.
no,
That's
he's like,
one
this
thing
is
I've
the
noticed
stats,
about him.
this is what it is, and he answers questions properly. He doesn't. I hate with Boris, man. He gets asked a question. Laura Kunsberg, first question, basically asking, "Do you think lockdown could come?" And he just going on his two-pronged approach. You can talk about that, that's fine, but then talk about, well, either say we're definitely not going to have lockdown, or say lockdown could be on the cards.
Yeah, but Goran, they're never going to say that. They're
They
always going to
never
keep the door
bloody
open. And
yeah, yeah,
journalists
yeah.
have to ask that
Say that. Then,
question
yeah,
in case they catch him slipping. But
yeah.
they're never ever going to say yes or no because they never know what the future is going to hold. And one thing I do sympathize with the people in government with sometimes
Yeah.
is when they say, well, hang on, if we do one thing early, we get
Yep.
crucified for it. If we
Yep.
do one thing
Yep.
late, we get crucified for it.
It's
So
fine.
we genuinely can't win. And I
Yep.
feel that. I feel that pressure and pain. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you can do things correctly and early, but then you get criticized. Like say in Germany, they've been super conservative with it and they've been very, very careful about coronavirus. And that's
Mm.
caused issues with their own people having like riots and stuff. So it's like, okay, that's you going early. Now you go late, people die. So which way do you have it? And you're screwed as the guy who runs government because people
Mm.
won't forget that and how you reacted to it. There's no correct way of acting
No, there
throughout
isn't.
this whole
There's
thing.
no playbook for it. The only way is transparency. That's it.
Yeah, if you're
And the
transparent about
problem,
it and you can build up community, not community, wider
trust,
understanding amongst the whole nation,
trust,
that's
understanding,
fine.
awareness, increase
Yeah.
personal responsibility. The problem is everything he says is been seen through the lens of scandal, scandal, scandal. That's the
Well, it is
issue.
because he's had scandal after scandal after scandal in the last week. So
Yeah,
naturally, people
that's
are
the
going to be
issue.
like, we want to fucking crucify you.
Yeah,
So because you've
yeah,
given people so much ammunition, they want to release the bullets now. That's
yeah.
it.
And I'm
Everyone's
seeing it,
got them
man.
in the
There
chamber.
are
Any excuse, bam, 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 bam. That's it. It's done.
Facebook polls which I am seeing, and it will be like somebody's asking the question: is the government lying to us? Vote number one, and something like this. Or I saw another one today. It was like, I'm going to get the third vaccine. I've lost all faith in vaccines. And there was something else. Like these polls, generally, I'm talking in the thousands, people are voting. And I was watching these things. I was like, oh, bloody hell, man. There was a lot of, like you said, this kind of under the carpet pressure that's building. And you're right. In other countries, there have been physical riots. I don't think we've had that at any point in the UK. But
No.
we're very
We're
we're
a
a
very
population
polite
of
nation, all things considered.
who fight with their words and like will say things and I don't agree with this, rather than
See,
actually like
you're the
kicking
one who
off.
told me this, I think, which is queuing's
Mm.
a very British thing.
Queuing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Queuing's a
Mm.
very British thing, but abroad it's like a free for all. It's like, no, fuck it, let's just go in.
Yeah,
So
these are
I
rights.
think I
Yeah, yeah.
think as a nation we're a little bit too polite. Don't get me wrong, there's bigots and racists and all that shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But as a generalization,
Overall, yeah, yeah.
the stereotype is British people are very polite.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
So
look at our special partners across the pond, the Americans, large scale protests, that it doesn't take long for those guys to
yeah, but
protest
there's
about something,
also
man.
are there more of them? Yeah, there is more of them.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah. Many, many,
330 million of them.
many,
There's only
many,
like
many
50 odd
more.
million of us. So
Yeah, yeah. There's many, many more. But you're right. Part of that is in culturally ingrained. That ours is we fight with words and we always, we just debate and it keeps us safe to a degree. But I don't know how much longer. That's the thing now. It's this next thing. Like, is how long do we live in? When comes the point when we say we accept as a nation that you're allowed to die from coronavirus?
I think
It's
it's going
like,
to have to turn into the flu eventually because how
yeah.
many more booster
So
shots
that's
can we
the
give
point.
people? How many more how many more of like these vaccine push outs can you keep doing? It's fucked.
That's the question, man. That's the question.
Yeah,
When is that
because
point where we say this is it
essentially
now?
you're going to keep doing this, then you're going to keep undulating all the time, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Like, okay, we're out the woods, we're back in it, we're out the woods, we're back in it. It's like, fucking hell,
The only way it works is
just live with it now at this point. I think that's the only thing you can do.
if the rate at which the virus mutates, right? So we've had all these variants, right?
This is I don't know
alpha
which way this is
wave,
actually.
alpha wave, delta wave, the Omicron obviously variant now. So if the rate at which the variance decreases, and therefore in between those periods, you have very high herd immunity, that's when I would suggest is the point where you're like, okay, this is not acceptable. As in the infection rate is at a low rate, and you've got a highly immunized population. That's probably the only way. The problem is at the moment it's like bang, 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 bang. It just keeps coming. And what Prof was saying again today is because Delta wave hasn't gone away either. This is just now you've got two variants at the same time. One is super virulent, and we're just seeing it's just going up. That's worrying.
I have one last question on this, and I promise we'll stop.
Yeah.
So my question is, if the theory is if everybody in the UK was vaccinated,
right,
would this still be a big problem?
When you
in
say
an ideal
vaccinated,
world,
you mean
everyone in the UK was vaccinated,
triple,
and then Omicron
fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
If
everyone was like that, would it still be a problem?
To a degree. So,
but to this degree, or to a degree where you don't have to introduce all these restrictions?
Have a lockdown. Restriction, good question. Oh, that's a very tough question. What I want to say, this is my optimistic brain, would be a fully vaccinated population would mean that a lot of people still get the infection, not a problem. We don't care about the number of infections per se. It's about how many infections. Well, infections lead to hospitalization, which lead to death. Remember, when somebody dies, they're again, this is not a nice way of thinking about it, they're no longer a burden on the system. You're thinking about
true.
It's the ones that lead to hospitalization, that lead to critical care.
Oh, long COVID and stuff.
Long COVID. As in a hospital. You're right. As in long COVID is another problem that's the NHS is dealing with. You've got people living with COVID that still now develop this chronic illness, much like diabetes and heart disease and things. So long lasting effects. But in terms of hospital being overwhelmed, that's the thing. I want to think that in a fully vaccinated population that we wouldn't be overwhelmed. Yes. That's my standpoint.
Okay. Yeah. So we won't be overwhelmed. So it'd actually be livable. Everyone can still go back to day to day. It would be cool.
Yeah.
So at this point then, I don't know,
but
man.
Everyone's going to have
take on it, I guess.
And the thing to remember is, although we keep making analogies with the flu, right? The difference between the flu and obviously coronavirus is that, although the flu is a highly infectious disease, it doesn't spread at the rate at which corona does, number one. Therefore, it doesn't overwhelm the system. Deaths per capita, I don't know what the stats are. As in, I know a lot of people die from flu each year, but I don't know if it's comparable, as in, to what we're seeing at the moment. So we can't compare it in that sense. That's the other thing that people need to understand.
Got it. Thank you for being a doctor and telling me the ins and outs of this. I appreciate it. It's been very, very helpful.
Yeah. Pleasure.
I could tell you're a bit tired.
No, it's just something in my eye. Got all these lights on, got this crane, got this arm, like all this gear, man. Wearing nice clothes. This isn't what I do, man.
This isn't you. This isn't the frugal life.
It's not authentic, man. Oh.
Gotta act like J-Lo in that video. What is it?
What?
Oh,
from the block.
What's that video?
Jenny from the block.
Walking down the beach and she starts taking off all her cuppa. And she's like, my love don't cost a thing. You're going to be doing that one day.
my love don't cost a thing.
Yeah, and you're going to be doing that because, throwing all this shit up. I don't want this Hackett jumper. I don't want the mic. I don't want the laptop. I'm my fully naked, authentic self. That's what you're going to be like.
I've got a friend who's written a book called Naked Truth, which is just about that.
Knew it. See? Someone's already taken the idea and done it.
There you go. I know them as well. So yeah.
See, there you go. Right. Shout out to Goran for this year's podcasting. Thank you very much. And I think you've got one more left in it for this year.
Yeah, next week we shoot.
Next week.
We may have a special guest.
We
may not have a special guest.
We shall see where the land lies. We'll see how the land lies. That's how it is. That's the phrase.